Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. I don't know why I didn't want to put you in there, Zach.
There's actually something going on with my browser. Like I couldn't do anything for a moment, and it's because there was an update. But I'll just hold off until after the show.
Well, I had to clear out the cookies on my computer, history, because I tried to log into my YouTube, my old YouTube, to see, am I still banned permanently? Which, of course, we all know still banned permanently.
Me too.
But so I couldn't log into my alternate YouTube account, so I had to go back and delete a whole bunch of files so that YouTube didn't think that it was the same account, whatever. And it logged me out of like everything that I've been logged into for like the last week. So this morning was an absolute shit show trying to get logged back into everything, including StreamYard. I thought I'd lost my access to StreamYard, so that was a pain in the ass.
That's funny.
And when you log into StreamYard every single time, if you log out and log back in, you have to get the email with the 6-digit password. And then in order to get to that email with the 6-digit password, I had to put in another 6-digit password. So my phone's just blowing up with 6-digit passwords this morning.
So annoying.
Welcome to the show, guys. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Mine would have been so much more spectacular if the NFL would get rid of these stupid rules about ties. But my Packers tied the Cowboys last night, and it was utterly disappointing. But life goes on. Life goes on. All right, guys. Go ahead.
Oh, nothing. I was just going to say I played some video games late last night. My computer, my Windows PC won't boot up. So I'm going to have to – I've done some troubleshooting. Can't get it to work. Got to take it in someplace, which is not cool.
Oh, well – that is never a good thing. That is one of my biggest fears, is something going wrong with my computer and not being able to do all this.
That's why I've got backups.
I was going to say I should probably come up with a backup plan.
Yeah.
I guess it would be my laptop, which, is pretty fast as well. But all right, let's jump into our sponsors for today's show before we get into the news. Guys, let's be clear. Cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's fully here. And this is the latest. And this latest move cements that reality in a big, big way. Trump Media just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Yorkville Acquisition Corp and Crypto.com, the crypto platform trusted by millions of users worldwide. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to establish America's first CRO treasury Trump Media Group CRO strategy. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest publicly traded CRO holder out there. Want in on the action? Head to crypto.com today and let's make crypto great again. For more information on the proposed business combination, check out Yorkville Acquisition Corp's public filings. All right. And then let's talk about our friends over at Native Path. Are you guys ready to move it more easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see that plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? I do. Discover Native Path Collagen, made with only types 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body, found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut. Types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. It's completely flavorless and can be added to just about anything: coffee, smoothies, oatmeals, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. Join the private Facebook community to share your success stories, recipes, and support each other on this journey called life. Visit getnativepath.com/badlands and start your transformation today. Again, that's getnativepath.com/badlands. All right, and let's jump into the news. Before we do so, please smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. And the big news coming out over the weekend is we had 2 really strange shootings, in one in Michigan and one in North Carolina. Both of them allegedly taken place or conducted by former Marines.
Yeah.
And so this is a little bit, I mean, this story sucks for
It's home.
It hits home for me. So let's jump into these. The first one here is the Michigan shooting. ABC News: investigators probe for motive in Michigan LDS church shooting fire. Thomas Jacob Sanford, 40, drove his truck into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc. Is it Grand Blanc?
Grand Blanc, yeah.
Grand Blanc, Michigan, on Sunday morning before shooting congregants and setting the building on fire. At least 4 people were killed, 8 others injured in the shooting and the fire, according to police. The gunman was then killed in a shootout with the responding police. The FBI is leading the investigation, calling the attack, quote, an act of targeted violence. Of those shot, 1 victim died at the scene and another later died at the hospital, while 2 more individuals were found dead at the scene due to the fire. 8 others remain hospitalized, with 1 in critical condition. Police Chief William Rain said, quote, we do believe that we will find additional victims once we have that scene secured. Interesting story with this guy. He, I guess, former Marine, served from 2004 to 2008. It doesn't say what he did in the Marine Corps, but he was a part of the 07 third wave through Fallujah, which I don't know much about the third wave. I know the first Operation Phantom Fury and the second Fallujah operations. Those were some of the toughest fighting the Marine Corps went through during OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom. I don't know much about the third one, but just doing a quick search on it, they took a bunch of casualties in that as well. These guys saw some pretty heinous stuff on those operations, whether it was, their own brothers and sisters being, shot and blown up or whatever, or, just what they saw being done to the enemy combatants over there and some civilians and other things. Just a really crappy situation. Also, the guy had a son that was, an insulin dependent, had a medical, some sort of a crazy insulin dependency, and I'm sure that was a burden on the family as well, but just a strange situation there.
Yeah, pretty awful. I saw actually a interview that a local pollster had done with some podcaster, but he was from Grand Blanc, or he was from that area of Michigan, and he was going around and talking to voters, and he spoke to this guy, I guess, a couple of months ago, and during the course of their conversation, they started talking about the LDS and how this guy, I guess, just really didn't like Mormons. And so there appears to be something deeper going on there. And from what I understand, this guy also had an anti-Trump sign in his yard or something like that. I don't know that this is just the preliminary reports, but I specify that because I know that because it's a white man, he appears to be motivated by his Christianity. The left is salivating at the possibility of attaching this to the right. And I also don't think that it's a coincidence that the ADL over the weekend classifies Christian identity as a hate group. I think that those two things happening at virtually the same time, along with everything else that we're seeing, it appears that there is a concerted effort at play to try to position white Christian men, as there has been for a very long time, as crazy people with guns who are going to kill you.
So just real quick on the anti-Trump sign, I don't know if I buy that. You know, the reporting on that is, you know, a Google Earth camera view of a stop sign. Like he's got a fence and there's a stop sign that leads back, you know, to the back of his property through, or there's like a driveway through it. Yeah. And there's a stop sign on the fence and there's a Trump Pence sign casually wedged between the fence and the stop sign. It looks more like they just put it there. It doesn't really, like, it's not defamatory. It's just a sign and then a stop sign. If you put the two together, sure, it could be Trump Pence stop underneath it, or it could just be, you know, putting up a sign and that was a logical place to put it without nailing into the fence or something along those lines. So I don't know that I necessarily go there, but I think, you know, and we'll get to this as we cover the next story here, what I believe to be the underlying cause, and it's pretty obvious, and there's tons of anecdotal evidence suggesting that, you know, it has more to do with the way that these guys are treated, the treatments that they receive and stuff like that. So
100%. No, I mean, in both cases, you've got, you know, men who serve their country seem to come back damaged, and there obviously was not the proper support system in place to ensure that they got all the help that they needed. And it's really, really too bad.
Yeah, 100%. Al Jazeera had an interesting article, you know, one of those what we know articles, and of course did it refresh? No, it didn't. So he was a former U.S. Marine, served from 2004 to 2008, including that deployment I talked about to Fallujah in 2007. I thought it was interesting. It says he served from 04 to 08, and it really only mentions the first Fallujah it only mentions the 2007 deployment as a deployment. It doesn't talk about as usually in 4 years, especially during the nitty gritty of OIF and OEF. You have two deployments typically in a 4-year period. Not often three, but usually not just one, especially in the height of everything. Right. And so I don't know what his first deployment might have been, but there was an article that was written, you know, in a local paper back in 2007, where his dad was saying that, you know, they're looking forward to him coming home and that kind of stuff. His son Brantley says was born with a rare medical condition known as hyperinsulinism, where the pancreas produces too much insulin. So I think I was wrong on that. I said he had a deficiency. So again, just an early story, an absolute tragedy. If you saw, I'm sure you guys have seen the footage. I mean, it was a big church, and the whole thing was, absolutely destroyed. So yeah, just one of those things, man. I don't know. But go ahead.
And yeah, I mean, it's just everything is so preliminary, and you've had varying reports coming out of the scene. Initially, you know, people were told that he just, you know, set the church on fire and that there was shooting. And, you know, since that time, there have been reports from people who were actually in the service stating that he drove his car in and he was, you know, saying some, you know, particular things, you know, shooting people, and then, you know, got the gas can out and started setting things on fire. I mean, in like the heat of the moment and sort of the insanity and just the confusion of everything, that's not unusual that we're going to have reports that are kind of going to, you know, conflict with other things. And that's also one of the reasons that people tend to not trust a lot of these things that we see, because we are so used to getting a narrative rather than the actual events that took place. We really just don't know that much about this guy. And, you know, I think that you're absolutely right. My initial takeaway after seeing, you know, two incidents with two Marines, both seeming to be just completely unprovoked and tragic, is that, you know, we've got people who are profoundly ill, and you know, veterans need to be taken care of. They are asked to do the most unnatural things in the most unnatural way, and to send them home without a support system that's going to ensure that, you know, they can get back to living a natural life. I mean, it puts them in a state that I don't know that everybody recovers from.
Yeah. You know, I'm old enough to remember the FBI's involvement in the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping and the handlers that those gentlemen had to, you know, coerce them essentially into doing that, going through with that, with their aid and assistance. And you know, it's not lost on me that that you have a situation here that just on its face doesn't make sense yet. I mean, granted, it just happened over the weekend. I'm sure we'll get more details, and I'm sure we'll get the God's honest truth about why a Marine father who has a sick son that he's taking care of decided to completely abandon, you know, his child and go and do something like this. It just, we'll see what happens. That one, there's, you know, not much details yet coming out as far as the son's past and everything, or the man's past and everything else like that. This one is weird. This story right here is just downright bizarre. From NBC News, highly premeditated attack on North Carolina waterfront bar leaves 3 dead and 5 wounded. A lone gunman killed 3 people and injured 5 others at a packed NC bar, North Carolina waterfront bar, with police describing it as a, quote, highly premeditated attack. Nigel Max Edge, 40. Interesting. Both men are 40. Was detained by the Coast Guard and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, and 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. Edge allegedly fled the scene after shooting, you know, the patrons from his boat. Fled the scene on his boat and headed towards the neighboring community of Oak Island, where he was a resident and where it says local police were aware of him. Jump down here. Edge changed his name in 2023 to Nigel Max Edge from Sean William Debevoise.
Yeah, Debevoise.
Debevoise,
maybe. I think that's probably how you would pronounce it if you're going with the French.
It sounds French, so we'll go with that. Edge is a quote-unquote self-described combat veteran who is injured in the line of duty and suffers from PTSD. He served in the Marines from September 2003 through June 2009, so his service is very much in line in terms of the time with Sanford. He deployed twice as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom, received numerous awards, including a Purple Heart and a Combat Action Ribbon. There's another story as well that he also received 2 Bronze Stars, and that's important because we saw some reporting. I think it was like about a congressman that, you know, has Bronze Stars and calling into question the legitimacy of those Bronze Stars. And, you know, one of the posts that I saw about this, and it's something me and Alpha have talked about on SitRep, is if you're an officer, once you get to a certain level, if you've been to, you know, a certain rank, if you've been to on a deployment, it's almost like a guarantee, especially in the Army, that you're going to get a Bronze Star. And I might get hate from some of my Army buddies out there, but, you know, once you're like 05 or above, it's like a given, right? It's an award that, you know, has meaning behind it. And, you know, you hear Bronze Star. Remember John Kerry and his, what did he get, like 7 Purple Hearts and 3 Bronze Stars? You know, Beau Biden, same thing. They talk about his Bronze Star all the time, but nobody will release the warrant to say what he did. This guy was a sergeant. He was an enlisted, non-commissioned officer, pretty low rank, E5. He earned his, right? His Bronze Star is probably legit. Ex-wife Rachel Crow has not spoken to the ex-husband in about a decade, but said that, quote, he'd been crying out for help for a long time. Police Chief Charlie Morris said that Edge was known to his officers and, quote unquote, frequently hung out on our pier. He also filed several lawsuits against the town of Oak Island. And so, go ahead.
I saw some people digging through the lawsuits over the weekend, and essentially the lawsuits look pretty unhinged. I mean, the guy seems to have been profoundly affected. I saw a report that he likely was suffering from schizophrenia as well. So, you know, I mean, people who have schizophrenia, they are seeing and hearing and experiencing a reality that is entirely different from what everybody else is experiencing. And so, if that's the case, I mean, regardless, I mean, there's nothing that can really explain something like this other than something like that. I mean, somebody who is, suffering with a TBI, that generally results in profound personality changes. And he just seems to have been a different person than he was when he went.
Yeah, there was this thread here that was pretty interesting. I think Gateway had cited this thread. Nigel Max Edge, alleged Southport shooter, is a Marine vet, injured in 2006 in Iraq, changed his name. Based on the pictures here, I mean, he was most likely, I mean, that's an M40A1 right there, or A2, excuse me. So, I mean, he was likely a sniper, which is, a very prestigious role in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps Scout Sniper School is one of the toughest, if not the toughest school, or it was. I think they did away with it now. It was one of the toughest schools in all of the military, not just the Marine Corps. So, and very well, he handles a rifle very well if he was in fact a scout sniper. This picture, I guess, is to suggest that he had a traumatic brain injury. Just some photos there. Here's some of the descriptions of the suits in 2012. So this is a weird story, and I remember this when I was active duty. He had put out like a post or something. I can't remember exactly how it started, but he got the attention of Kelly Pickler, former American Idol country singer, and he went on a date with her to the CMTs, the CMT Awards. And like there's photographs of them together and everything. And one of the lawsuits is saying that he sued her, claiming she attempted to murder him, that she attempted to poison his whiskey drink at the CMAs or the CMT Awards. And it was, of course, thrown out. He also filed a pro se case in the versus the U.S., the VA, Oak Island PD, and Novant Health, alleging civil rights violations, veteran cares issues, medical malpractice, and most were dismissed for errors in the case. In 2024, he sued the VA again. 2025, he also sued March of 2025, sued Oak Island in a habeas writ case. He's got a bunch of cases, and there was one that was still active, even. Well, let me jump into the New York Post article. Maybe that's where I saw this. It was still active. So some more details on it. Like I said, okay, so here it is. He was armed with a short-barreled AR rifle equipped with a suppressor and a folding stock and a scope, according to court documents.
Oh, that's like the ATF's dream of guns that they want to ban.
Bingo.
Right there. Oh.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. Like, I don't know what this scene looks like. But again, they called it a heavily premeditated attack, right? That's their words.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a scout sniper, right, the last place you want to be taking well-aimed shots from is a boat.
Sure.
And if you're going to be taking well-aimed shots, you don't want to be taking them with a short-barreled rifle with a suppressor.
Not an SBR. No.
So that's kind of bizarre. I mean, this isn't like, this is somebody, that if it was, this premeditated attack, all these things would be taken into consideration. Like, sure, you want the boat as a possible, way to get out. It's actually kind of smart because you can go as far as you want. It's very difficult to track. There's not traffic cameras and everything else.
Yep.
So that makes sense, but you would think that he would, I don't know, maybe post up on the shore bank and then have the boat as a way to get away,
or even have the boat far enough out with a powerful and accurate enough rifle, like a sniper's rifle, that would allow him to shoot and essentially be undetected. I mean, he could have been far enough out at sea that he could. Have you ever seen The Jackal? Yeah. Okay. So
wait.
Yeah, well, there's a Bruce Willis Jackal. I believe there was one before that, and then I think that they just made a television show about it as well. But if I'm not mistaken, in the story, one of the ways that Bruce Willis ends up killing somebody is from a boat with a sniper's rifle, because he's far enough away and he can, obviously there are more intelligent ways to go about this that would make a lot more sense given his background. And the idea of using an SBR with a suppressor and sniping people, I'm not really buying that.
Well, Mark Wahlberg who was what was his name? Gunny.
Talking about Shooter.
Yeah, Shooter.
Okay.
He shot the one guy from a boat with a 22 with a makeshift oil filter suppressor and shot him clean through the neck perfectly.
You mean a solvent trap? Because it's not a
Solvent
suppressor,
trap.
it's a solvent trap.
Solvent trap.
It's very important for the ATF distinction.
Yeah. A makeshift. Yeah, okay, fair enough. We don't want to give them any more fodder. They're already coming after everything.
No, that's for cleaning your rifle afterwards, making sure that you're getting all of the gunk and the carbon out of it. Definitely not a suppressor.
Yeah. So let's just real quick. I want to cover this one last point that the New York Post wrote about in a book written by Edge when he still went by de Beauvois or whatever that name was. De Beauvois. He wrote a book called Headshot: Betrayal of a Nation, which starkly claims that he was shot 4 times, including in the head, by friendly fire over an international conspiracy. Edge claimed he found himself entrapped in a conspiracy ring while fighting in Iraq and said he was wounded in 2 separate IED attacks during a 2006 tour in the war-torn country, along with a bullet wound that left shrapnel lodged in his head. Now, that sounds crazy.
It does, but you combine it with him going on a date with Kelly Pickler and her trying to poison his whiskey. I mean, he would be prime target for somebody if they wanted to scoop him up and throw him into some type of MK program after the fact and use him in this way.
I tell you what, I would really like to read that book.
Yeah, me too.
You know, and mainly because I think a lot of guys that have served and have been over there can tell, is this something that legitimately happened? There's a lot of stuff that goes on during war, both from the military's perspective and the intelligence perspective, and in terms of things that you're not supposed to see. And it's honestly, it's not lost on me that this guy could, especially being a scout sniper, you know, probably had a classified clearance, you know, a top secret clearance, as most of them do. It's not lost on me that he could have potentially seen something, you know, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And then part of that conditioning, you know, from there on, you know, I don't know what types of drugs he was on, but, you know, going from writing a book about this conspiracy to dating, or going on a date, not dating, but going on a date with Kelly Pickler, being front and center, kind of like the darling child. And then, you know, when the time is right, you're activated. I don't know. Yeah.
So what was the name of that book again? You said Headshot: Conspiracy?
It was Headshot: A Nation's Betrayal of a Nation.
Betrayal.
If you can find it real quick, buy me a copy and I'll pay you
I'm
back.
gonna, yeah.
Before they take it all off the internet.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Oh, I got it.
Find it?
Yeah.
But if there's 2 copies, buy one and send it to me.
I will.
And I'll pay you right after the show.
Okay.
I definitely want to read that book.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, there's a lot of controversy around Pat Tillman and how he was killed. He was killed by friendly fire. And again, you know, there was a lot of stuff. Me and Alpha had a combat engineer on that was talking about the drug trafficking that was taking place in Afghanistan. You know, there's human trafficking that gets, you know, run through here. And I mean, what was the movie with, it was an awful movie. Jeremy Renner, Hurt Locker.
Oh, Hurt Locker. Yeah.
Terrible movie. But, you know, stuff like that happens. So anyways, the big takeaway from this is that this guy was on, you know, the cocktail that they give us. And it's not lost on me that with those 2 things, okay, so the narrative being laid out right now is 2 Marines, 40 years old, Iraq veterans, you know, white guys, Trump supporters, you know, all that stuff, or anti-Trump, you know, depending on how you interpret that sign. With PTSD, one of them's using an NFA rifle and an NFA device, a suppressor. So 2 NFA devices on there, an SBR and a suppressor. Yeah. This guy, you know, going in and using his PTSD to attack Christians. It's almost like they're, you know, just kind of gathering up more of that fodder to throw at the PTSD. They shouldn't own guns. And I know we go down this, you know, every so often. we go down this, maybe we should consider taking guns away from veterans with PTSD, and to which I say absolutely not. Let's look at the treatments that they get instead.
Well, same thing with people saying to take guns away from trans people. I mean, it's one more step to just say, well, all people with a mental illness should have their weapons taken away, because that's all they have to do is diagnose you, and then you lose your Second Amendment rights. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. I mean, these are individual cases that need to be looked at as individual cases, not as subsets of an entire population of people. Because obviously, if that was the case, we would have a lot more stuff going on, but we don't. There's like ongoing court cases right now to remove suppressors from the NFA schedule, and that's possibly what was it? Franklin Armory just came out with 2 SBR style guns, which are not technically SBRs because of their unique rifling in the barrels, and they were released and they were on sale for a day. I want to say, oh gosh, I can't remember the names, but they were available for a day, and then the ATF they won in court. The ATF said these are not SBRs. Franklin Armory sold them for a day, sold out, and then the ATF immediately went after them again to try to somehow get them classified as SBRs, even though technically, based on the law, the language and the color of the law, they are not SBRs. So there is still a lot of effort within the federal government to restrict our Second Amendment.
Do you know what the loophole that they used to get around the
it was rifle barreling, or the barrel rifling rather. So it wasn't twist, it was straight on the insides of the barrel. Yeah, totally.
What?
Yes, I know. Hold on,
they're
just a second.
accurate?
Yes. Franklin.
I have an AR pistol, which is ultimately an SBR with a pistol brace. But I mean,
that's the thing. These have buttstocks. Okay, that's like in every other way except for the rifling. They are SBRs, but they're not SBRs. Okay, so hold on. So these are okay. So one of them was called the Antithesis, and the other one is called shucks.
I just want to know how
Reformation, the Antithesis and the Reformation. Here, let me. I'll pull this up so you can see it.
While you're doing that, real quick, New K's in the chat says, "I'm telling you, Brian, MSM today narrative will be that the church shooting is retaliation from the right, violence against the Mormon Church for somehow being responsible for Charlie Kirk assassin."
I that was not lost on me either. I thought that perhaps they were going to try to use that as well. Yeah. I mean, I think all of it's probably connected. Okay, so first look, the return of the Franklin Armory Reformation. So resuming sales. Oh, is this? Oh, so no, this is from April. So anyways, simply a firearm that is regulated by the Gun Control Act. Reformation is not a National Firearms Act firearm. No tax stamp is required. Each Reformation model features the patented NRS barrel technology. And what is it? Oh, they also come with binary triggers. You can get it with binary triggers which is awesome.
Does it explain what the NRS barrel technology is?
Hold on. Let me look at the what was the other one? The Reformation and then
Antithesis.
Franklin Armory and Antithesis.
Sorry, guys, I'm really interested in this now.
Okay. So they actually they did release a statement last night. The ATF asked us to voluntarily recall all of the sales. So they took down their blog post. Oh, and I think maybe the Antithesis might just be that it has the front grip stabilizer.
But you're not allowed to put those on AR pistols.
Well, for whatever reason, they were able to because it wasn't considered. Okay.
All right. Well, we'll look into this more. We gotta keep going here. But so with all this stuff, it's not lost on me with the 2 stories here, the PTSD aspects that are being peddled by the media. President Trump truthed this out last night. What's up?
Okay, so it's not an SBR because it's designed to fire multiple projectiles, not just a single projectile. because under the definition of the NFA, a rifle must fire a single projectile. By engineering the antithesis to be capable of firing multi-projectile ammunition, such as shotgun-type shells, Franklin Armory avoids the SBR classification and a tax stamp.
That's interesting. Definitely got to look into those guns.
Yeah.
So here's the video President Trump truthed out, and like this was a massive post for me. I'm so excited about this post, and I apologize, guys, but this is a big deal.
We've all heard about the major systems in our bodies, like the digestive, respiratory, nervous, and cardiovascular systems. But there's one essential system discovered in the 90s that you probably never heard of. It makes all of the other systems work smoothly with each other. Like a conductor, ensuring the different sections of an orchestra all play a beautiful symphony together. This system is called the endocannabinoid system. It has been acknowledged and studied by scientists extensively with support from the National Institutes of Health. As we age, the system weakens. As a result, the different systems in our body stop working together smoothly. That's one of the reasons older adults struggle with pain, inflammation, cognitive decline, and other ailments of aging, for which doctors often prescribe dangerous and addictive pharmaceuticals. They also recommend lifestyle remedies, such as exercise, good diet, and stress management. And while all these improve the system, it is only fractionally and over a long time. But here's the game changer. The system can be restored faster using hemp-derived CBD. When the system is restored, pain subsides, sleep is improved, and stress is reduced. When the system is restored, disease progression can slow down, and years are added to your life, as well as years spent in good health. And 20% of seniors are already using CBD today for pain, arthritis, cancer symptoms, sleep disorders, Alzheimer's, and many other ailments of aging. But doctors are not equipped to provide guidance, and there are no FDA standards for what is already in the market today. Imagine if that were the case for other medications. Older adults are suffering needlessly. Hemp-derived CBD can help them feel better, live longer, and improve their quality of life.
All right, we can stop there. But it's such a huge message from President Trump being posted. Now, what I thought was really interesting, Zach, is before that post, he had posted a MedBeds video. And then he took it down because
did he?
Yes, he deleted that post.
Okay.
Which, everybody's kind of like, what's going on here? Is he hinting at something, or did he put that up and people caught on that it was AI? I mean, it was pretty obvious that it was AI, and the fact that he truthed that is kind of interesting.
Certainly.
But then when he deletes it, but this one's still up because, that's still one of those taboo subjects with conservatives and Republicans is cannabis. And the benefits of it are tremendous. It literally saved my life. I put up a post, where I did a little video and did an honorary bong rip for President Trump for, putting this out there. The only thing I will, I'll play it if you want.
I saw it. I already saw it.
Oh, okay.
You can play it if you want. I don't care.
Well, I'll let the chat. If the chat wants to see it, you guys put it in the chat.
Do you want to see Canncon doing a bong rip for Trump?
But so here's the thing: is you do need to have THC with CBD to fully engage the endocannabinoid system. He doesn't really mention that, but he does talk about cannabis broadly, which cannabis is more geared towards the THC as opposed to hemp, which is predominantly CBD. So, yeah. All right.
So, I think that it indicates that there's probably going to be some communication coming from HHS and the good folks that are working with RFK Jr. I mean, this has been something that's been under attack for a long time. You've got some members of Congress who are in favor of, people obviously having access to this, but there are some factions within, I would say specifically the pharmaceutical industry, that really don't want it to be as widespread or as clear-cut in exactly how positive a benefit it can have for people. And it's very important to note that, traditional marijuana products are psychoactive. CBD products are non-psychoactive, but your body has a system designed to take these substances up and to use them in some pretty incredible ways.
Yep. So there were some people saying no in the chat, but overwhelmingly folks said yes. So I am going to play the video. It's not very long and it is educational. It's something I talk about on this show at least once a week and sometimes even more, but check it out. All right, guys, in honor of President Trump truthing out about the endocannabinoid system, something that I talk about at least once a week, it is one of the most important medical acknowledgments by a president of the United States that we've ever had. The endocannabinoid system is literally on every single organ in our body, every organ. Not only that, you have more endocannabinoid receptors in your brain than any other receptor, But here's one key takeaway from the video that President Trump posted. Not only do you need CBD to activate the receptors in your brain, you also need THC. So yes, I understand there's the psychotropic effect there from THC, but it balances out with CBD. It's not like booze. You go to a bar and you get drunk, no matter how much bread you eat or how much food you eat or how much water you drink, you're still going to be drunk. If you get too stoned, you take a little CBD and it mellows you right out. So in honor of President Trump bringing awareness to this, a plant that has never killed a single person in the history of its usage, not one, and something that literally saved my life. And Boone Cutler, this one's for you, brother. This one's for you, brother. Here we go. Such a degenerate. Rip it. God bless President Trump. All right.
So I actually, after I saw your video, I saw something else that was applicable to this. And I actually wanted to suggest it to you. Right. Take a look at this. Take a look at this.
Okay, so I have two basil plants. One, I pour my bong water in. One, I don't. I'll show you the difference.
What?
Water, just normal water.
Wow. Okay, I'm trying this. Okay. I'm trying this. Wow.
Yeah, I wanted you to try it because I don't have access to bong water. I don't smoke pot, but I know you do. And so I think that it's definitely worth your time.
Dude, I got to try that. I'm all in on it.
Okay, so we'll do a study. All right, you'll have. How about this? We do 3 different groups. All right, so you have one that's to control regular water. You have another that is simply the bong water, and then you have another which will be, say, like in organic fertilizer. Okay, and you have those 3 plants. We'll do all of those, and you'll take pictures every day, document your progress. We'll take copious notes. Maybe we'll even get published.
I'll set up a GoPro because I have like 4 GoPros. So I'll set 2 GoPros up on both plants and I'll set them on a time lapse.
Yeah. And
they'll take like a picture like every 12 hours or something. I'll leave everything stationary. There we go. Let's do it.
Love it.
All right. So just to drive home that point, I think that announcement was so important because CBD and THC are ways that I believe that we can get vets, especially off of these these SSRIs and other antidepressants and all sorts of schizo meds that they have people on. And I know people out there will be like, oh, well, there's that study that shows cannabis can cause schizophrenia. Very unlikely. All right. All studies that are done on cannabis right now, because it's a Schedule I drug, are extremely regulated by the DEA, the FDA, and all those other agencies, which all those other agencies are absolutely in bed with big pharma. And President Trump exposing this, even the MedBeds thing, right? Like if MedBeds is actually a thing and comes to fruition, I'm all for it, man. You go into bed and fixes you. What's wrong with that? Let's cut the cost of healthcare broadly. And we would, I think in that video, it says that CBD legalization, like federally and cannabis federally, could save $60 billion a year in Medicare and Medicaid. And I think it would actually be even better than that. But all right. The government shutdown is tomorrow, guys. And Maria Bartiromo's here with Something I haven't heard yet, and I absolutely love this. Listen to this introduction before she brings on Speaker Johnson, which I don't care what he has to say.
Welcome back. We are less than 72 hours away from a shutdown of the federal government. Republicans are seeking a clean, continuing resolution to keep the government funded and open, while Democrats want to extend subsidies for Obamacare. They are set to expire at the end of the year, as well as relaxing new rules that make it harder for states to enroll illegal immigrants into taxpayer-funded health care. The Office of Management and Budget has instructed federal agencies to prepare for a permanent, massive downsizing of government staff during a potential government shutdown, specifically targeting employees of programs that are not legally mandated to continue. The possible move comes as the national debt is at a record high, $37.5 trillion, with interest alone on that debt of over $1 trillion, in large part due to the $7 trillion in new spending under the Biden administration. Joining me now with the latest.
All right, so there we go. Did you catch that, Zach? That if it shuts down, President Trump is going to use the shutdown as a way to permanently get rid of certain government employees?
Yes, I actually knew about that last week. Anything that is no longer going to be specifically funded can be wiped out. So that includes federal employees as well as federal programs. Which, I think it's brilliant. This is the way that we would be able to go ahead and get this taken care of, carte blanche. And everything, it would all be due to the Democrats. I mean, to their hubris, their inability to reach a compromise. I mean, it would be so simple to just allow the passage of a clean continuing resolution for the things that are necessary. But they simply can't do it. They have to have their pork, and if they don't get their pork, then that gives President Trump the power of the pen.
Yeah, I'm all for it, man. I mean, we get the rug on the shutdown every single time. I think we generally are okay with a government shutdown because I think the next day when people wake up and realize their lives haven't changed in the slightest, they'll be like, maybe we've been kind of propagandized about this government shutdown and how detrimental it's going to be to us, because everything that's essential is already funded. The military, border patrol, essential functions of the federal government are still going to be funded. It's all the pork, like you were saying, that gets cut out. This time, I think and I know we probably say this like every time there's like some little nuance that we're like, oh, maybe this time it's for real. I don't know, man. I think maybe we could actually see it for like a week or two this time around. And like you said, President Trump will use that to slim down the government.
Well, and on top of that, apparently 100,000 federal employees are planning to walk off because they don't like what's happening. Great. You guys walk off and there's no funding for your positions. That's an easy 100,000 employees that simply don't need to come back to work.
Amen. Amen. All right, let's jump into this story, a continuation, an update here. And I'm pushing back on this. I am pushing back on this hard. FBI's Patel clarifies role of hundreds of agents on J6, says Chris Wray lied to Congress. The FBI responded on Saturday to the report that 274 plainclothes agents were at the U.S. Capitol, clarifying the role of bureau personnel while still blasting Christopher Wray. While the agents were on hand, they were sent in after the riots had began to try to control the unruly crowd. Remember that. That is not the proper role of FBI agents, and Wray was not forthcoming about what happened when he testified numerous times on Capitol Hill, according to Director Kash Patel. Quote, agents were sent into a crowd control mission after the riot was declared by Metro Police, something that goes against FBI standards. It's interesting. I wonder if that's a direct quote. He was sent into a crowd control mission, and because like that just means that they changed their mission, that they were already there. It doesn't say they were sent in to a crowd. It says they were sent into a crowd control mission. That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's no indication any FBI agents were involved in any events related to Trump's speech, an FBI official said. Well, no shit. That was at a completely different place. That wasn't at the Capitol. I was there at the speech. That was very peaceful. Yeah. Right. So that's an interesting comment that they made there. So basically, they're saying that the FBI agents weren't deployed at the time. They only deployed after they were requested, and they said go in as crowd control, which is absurd to me. It says the first agents arrived at the Capitol around 2:30 p.m. There's no evidence there were any there before a riot was declared, and agents continued to arrive after that, the official added. Now, Steve Baker, who has probably watched more J6 footage than anybody except maybe Gary McBride.
Oh, yeah.
Says this is 1,000% bullshit. No one has had more time in the Capitol CCTV viewing room than me and my partner, I think that's John Hannebaum's his name. We've never seen a single frame of video showing plainclothes FBI assisting uniformed LEOs, law enforcement officers, in either crowd control or protecting the Capitol. And he's exactly right. I've watched days worth. I've spent weeks worth of my life watching these videos frame by frame, whatever. And I've never once seen a plainclothes individual assisting MPD looking like an FBI agent. There were some that were Metropolitan PD or U.S. Capitol Police. There were a couple in that regard. Never seen one identified as FBI. I don't know, man.
I definitely saw plainclothes MPDs going into the crowd and attempting to incite a riot. That was certainly something that was on video. But yeah, never saw anybody who could have been identified as FBI that was assisting with crowd control or anything like that. Whole thing seemed like a shit show. And, I tend to think that these guys were already there. I can tell you, I don't know if you saw the same thing I did, but I mean, there were guys before anything went bad that were clearly not protesters. Okay. Like they, had like varying levels of tactical gear on. They had, comms that they were using. There were people who were already there and they were ready, when stuff started going bad. And, think about how many people were caught on video committing like overt acts of destruction, inciting the crowd and fighting against patriots who were telling them to stop acting like a fool, very violent. And those people were never on the FBI's most wanted list. Those people were never pursued. Some of them were, but they were very quickly taken off because clearly they were confidential human sources of one form or another. But the ones who were masked up and who were never identified, I always thought those guys were agents of one agency, whether it's the FBI, CIA, perhaps a foreign intel like Ukraine, maybe even Israel, who knows?
Yeah. I want to play this clip here. If you needed more evidence, this is Chief of Police, U.S. Capitol Police at the time, Chief Stephen Sund, talking about the FBI agents and the involvement that he had specifically, or the knowledge, I should say, that he had specifically.
To me, as just a pedestrian, it seems like if I'm the FBI, if I'm the federal government, I'm going to pick up the phone and say, hey, Chief, just want to let you know, we know January 6th is supposed to maybe get a little bit crazy. We'll have 300 agents there for you. There'll be plainclothes. There'll be some guys not in plainclothes. Is that a rational thing for me to be thinking that, hey, we'll pick up the phone and say, hey, Chief, you'll have 300 guys there if you need them. Here's your point of contact for January 6th. Let us know if you need anything else.
Well, take it a step further. If they were saying that they were going to have that group in the crowd already, most likely what they'd do is they'd put a liaison up in my command center. I mean, if you're going to have that type of assets and resources deployed onto someone's jurisdiction, you're going to put somebody in their command center. So that's key. And you said something really interesting coming into that as the chief, you're kind of king of the castle. The only problem with the Capitol is the bureaucracy. Even though I was the chief of police, there was a chief law enforcement officer for the House and a chief law enforcement officer for the Senate that sat over top of me. That created the big bureaucracy that I ran into. So you'd like to think the chief could call the shots, especially with my experience. Not the case on January 6th.
Yeah, I wasn't saying it, putting the blame on you in any way.
Oh, no. I was just so your viewers, kind of get a picture. It's like no other jurisdiction in the world. They really need to fix that.
All right. So Chief Sund is saying here, first and foremost, to the point he's making there about, the sergeant at arms in both the House and the Senate and having more authority or oversight, to him, the Speaker of the House oversight, even like the voting committee that votes on law enforcement decisions. It's like, I think it's the 2 sergeant at arms, the architect of the Capitol, and then I believe the deputy chief is a voting member, not the chief of police. The chief of police is a member, but he's not a voting member.
Mhm.
Are you fact checking me on that?
No. I don't know how to look that up.
Okay.
I wouldn't know what the search term to use. I was looking up the Michael Stenger, the sergeant at arms who died in June of 2022, because, I was thinking that if somebody would have had some knowledge, obviously, I think that Michael Stenger would have had some information. And by removing him from the equation, they wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, let me, who are members of the voting board in the U.S. Capitol that make U.S. Capitol Police decisions? Because it was shocking to me. I think I interviewed what's his name, Tarek Johnson, about this, and he was. So it says the voting members are the sergeant at arms for the Senate and the House, and the architect. So it is just those 3. The chief of police serves as an ex officio non-voting member. So I was correct, except that I thought there were 5 members. There's only 3. So it is the 2 sergeant at arms and the architect are the 3 voting members. The chief has no say, no vote in it. I mean, he might have a say, but they don't have to listen to him. So anyways, here's the point though, is Chief's son is saying that he had no knowledge that these 274 agents were going to be there. There's no liaison in the command center with them, which they would have been, even if they were as like a QRF, as like a standby force. They still should have had somebody in the command center.
Right.
Then they deploy. We have at 2:30, allegedly, we have no visual of them assisting Metro Police or U.S. Capitol Police. We have no names, no nothing. You're sending these agents in. You would think that they would first off identify themselves. You would have some sort of identifying, mark on them so that Capitol Police knows that they're not hostiles. They're not rioters, protesters, whatever you want to call them. They would definitely have body armor on. You're going into a situation where, there's a violent crowd. That's the narrative that they put down, a violent crowd throwing flagpoles, sharpened flagpoles and baseball bats and all this stuff. And they just went in completely unarmed, no identification, no nothing. Get the bleep out of here. And the people, I take a little shot here, but people are like, oh, well, this was a nothing burger. Yeah, if you believe the report on its face, I don't think anybody could believe that report on its face.
No. Seems like it's a whitewash of what happened. Okay, so there were 274 agents that were in the crowd, but it's not the way you think.
Right. They were only there to help. Yeah. They were all standing behind the wall. And then when things went really bad. So here's what I think happened. I think they might not have been in the crowd during the protest. I think they set up the gallows, right? Who was it? Was it Steve Baker that tracked the guy from the gallows to a coffee shop across from the Hoover building that was open at 6 a.m. during COVID? Yes. If, for anybody that was in DC on J6, everything was closed during COVID. Yeah. I remember when we went from the Ellipse to on our way to the Capitol, I didn't ultimately end up going. We stopped at a sub shop and there was a line that was like an hour long just to get a sandwich because no place else was open. But this guy, whoever put those gallows in, the 2 of them knew that coffee shop was going to be open at 6 a.m. So that's sus to me.
I mean, somebody set those gallows up and the pipe bombs.
The pipe bombs. Yep. Pipe bombs, another big one, right? Yeah. Nobody has any desire, even after Bongino railed on his podcast for 2 years, right? He had, what's her name? Julie Kelly on to talk about it, Darren Beatty to talk about it, all these people to talk about it. And now something that should be very simple to figure out. Did the pipe bombs come from Langley? Did they come from Quantico? Did they come from FBI? Were they training devices? Like all this stuff, and we have no answers.
Yeah.
So maybe this is, kind of the soft disclosure, getting to the point where we get some more information on this. But I think what happened, Zach, and just to land this here, as always, I think they set this up, and when it wasn't going as planned, when the crowd didn't do what they wanted to do, that's when the Metropolitan Police and the U.S. Capitol Police began the tear gas, began the pepper balls. I think the FBI got involved at that point. I don't see any evidence that they were trying to subdue the crowd. I think, the guy that Bobby Powell famously recorded breaking the window after Hunter Emke, I believe that guy was probably one of these feds, and he's there ripping the windows out, making it easy. I think they were enablers. So, if you want to believe that the FBI, the corrupt FBI that was politicized and everything else during 2020 and 2021, that they put out a report that says, oh, we were just there in a crowd control. If you want to take that on its face, you're more than welcome to. I know what I saw with my eyes, and that report makes no sense.
With you.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into this story. And speaking of agencies and, people that want to report on themselves, we'll get to that in a second. Here's John Brennan talking about Jim Comey.
John Durham, the special counsel who investigated over several years and many, many millions of dollars and man hours, didn't find any reason to press charges against Jim Comey. Bill Barr, the former attorney general in Trump's first term, also pushed back mightily against Donald Trump, saying there's nothing there. So again, all of the facts that we know of right now really say that Jim Comey should not be charged. I worked very closely with Jim Comey while he was director of the FBI and I was director of CIA. Jim Comey is a man of integrity, of honesty. I had some disagreements with Jim Comey about decisions or actions he took. That is natural. But I never had any doubt whatsoever that he was fully committed to the rule of law and a commitment to uphold his oath of office, which he has done. And so from the standpoint of projection, in terms of this Trump administration, putting on Jim all of these labels and these allegations that I think are really hollow, it really, again, I think is more reflective of the Trump administration overall that is going to continue to follow Donald Trump's lead as far as on this revenge tour.
And that was, of course, followed
a few moments later. I don't see any case against me. I have looked back on all of my actions and decisions, and with John Durham, the special counsel, and others that have looked at what we did, it was certainly consistent with our legal authorities and with the law. So I don't know what they're referring to there. Individuals who used to work in the government, even if their security clearances were revoked, they could be subpoenaed. They could be, called to provide testimony in support of whatever allegations they have. I don't see a case there.
So there we have it. There's no case against James Comey, and there's no case against John Brennan. He's the one that's investigated this. He did it himself, and he has exonerated himself from any criminal liability in this case.
Well, guys, I guess we can just put it all away. I mean, these guys are certain that they did nothing wrong. I mean, of course, he's going to say that, right? Because I think he is likely one of the next people to be indicted. This is probably one of the most well-documented cases of criminal conspiracy of the modern age. And I truly do believe that Jim Comey's charges were simply to get him on the hook before the statute of limitations ran out, and likely superseding indictments for that conspiracy will be coming along with indictments for people like John Brennan. And we'll see what else happens to John Bolton. John Bolton is totally going to get indicted as well. He'll be lucky if his wife and daughter aren't indicted, because they didn't have security clearances and they were knowingly receiving classified documents from their father and husband. And who knows what other damage might have been done to the United States of America. I mean, a foreign intelligence service intercepted John Bolton's communications. That's the one who told us about it. Okay. What about the ones who didn't tell us about it, who said, hey, we will happily scoop this up. Who cares that John Bolton is turning traitor to his own country? Let's just get what we can while we can.
Yeah, we talked about this last week is, John Bolton, this NSA guy, security clearance ambassador. He knows the ins and outs of how the government works. He knows how, technology works. He understands, how to protect yourself and secure yourself. And he's using AOL email. Come on now. Come on.
Well, I think from John Bolton's perspective, he could do whatever the hell he wanted. I mean, it's his crew. that are going to be watching, right? You know, like, oh, everybody's got to get their own piece. Get your bag, John Bolton. You know, I mean, he thought Donald Trump wasn't going to be back in office. He thought we were going to have Donald Trump probably scooped up and all of his people would be in prison as well. So, you know, business as usual.
Yeah, and if there ever was an investigation into it, oh, my email was hacked. I didn't know. I didn't know. Nah, I personally believe that the hack is intentional. You probably even gave them the passwords. You know, I'm trying to remember who it was that was telling me about, you know, how they use draft emails to communicate with each other and draft, you know, messages, and they'll just log into each other's accounts and read the messages without them ever sending them.
Yeah, that was during the Obama administration. That was something they would frequently do. Yeah.
I just can't remember the specifics on who was blowing the whistle on that, as, you know, kind of the tradecraft that they were using to do that. And that was why it was really interesting when they did the Twitter files and they were going after, you know, unread draft messages. They went after President Trump for the same thing, right? They're like, we want to see President Trump's unread draft tweets. And it's kind of like, how did you know to look there if you haven't been doing it yourself already? Projection at its finest. All right. From ABC News, Comey charge involves his role in sharing info about Hillary Clinton related probe. Hillary Clinton has been identified as person one. It says in the indictment, count one says that Comey willfully and knowingly lied when testifying under oath at the Senate Judiciary Committee in September 2020. He reaffirmed previous Senate testimony, insisting that he never, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in the news reports about an investigation connected to someone only identified as person one. Person one has been identified as Hillary Clinton, according to sources telling ABC News. Person three being Richmond, that is the professor, the law professor that was the go-between for Comey. And so there you go.
So by virtue of the fact that Comey gave those memos to Richmond and told him to leak them, that is the that's the authorization right there, right? You know, I mean, like, he didn't need to call anybody and say, I authorize you to leak this. All right. And that's what they're all like hanging their hat on. Well, you know, Jim Comey didn't need to authorize me to do this. Okay, but he's your boss. He knows exactly what you're doing. He doesn't have a problem with it. He says, good job, Andy. And then he calls his friend and authorizes him to leak his documents, his memos that he wasn't supposed to have taken regardless. So, yeah.
It's all very interesting. I do think we're going to see a lot more superseding indictments just on Comey alone.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have speculated about that. You know, Giuliani has a video out talking about it. I think Catherine Herridge has talked about it. I believe it was Herridge.
She did. Yeah.
Yeah. She talked about it and said, I've seen my share of, you know, federal investigations and indictments, and this one definitely looks like there's going to be superseding indictments. Q-Post, right, has on September 11th a Delta on September 11th with, you know, James Comey treason, John Brennan's next treason. So it is interesting that that's happening. I also saw an article over the weekend kind of rehashing Tulsi Gabbard's expose on Obama and his leadership in all of this. So yeah, I think it's getting close to punch time. It's getting close to crunch time.
Punch in the deep state time.
All right. Before we move on to the next segment, folks, let's talk about our next sponsor. And this is a good one. Hey, football fanatics, you ready for some prime time NFL action? Tune in to Westwood One for all the gridiron glory that you crave, from jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays. Don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood One. You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on Westwood One Sports app, on the westwoodonesports.com via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports. It is the NFL, and it is on Westwood One. All right. Man, that game last night.
I saw you posting about it, but I don't know anything about it. Were you upset because they tied, or was that somehow affecting your fantasy league?
No, my fantasy's done because of that. Our defense got dunked on in the second half. We were great in the first half, but I think Chris is going to beat me this week unless Tyreek Hill has like a blow up game. But in overtime, there was two plays that just, you know, there was a a no call on an intentional grounding where Dak threw the ball like 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, which you usually have to get in front of the line of scrimmage, but they said that he got hit, and so it was a disrupted pass. It wasn't a disrupted pass. He threw the ball 20 yards shy of anybody, no call. And then we have a guy just get ripped to the ground on like a 40-yard bomb that he was coming back for, and no call on that either. And it's so hard to watch these games when the officiating just puts their thumb on it so much like that.
Yeah.
It's really difficult because, and I see people saying the NFL's rigged. It's very difficult to rig the NFL, but the referees definitely put their thumb, and there are pivotal plays that can influence the outcome of a game. And Green Bay overcame it and still managed to tie the game. So,
well,
Pack, go.
When I think about the rigging of a game, I mean, that's immediately what I would go to. I mean, it's just the influence of the refs. So is it that the refs are making calls based upon their own bias of who they like, or is somebody being paid off to ensure that certain calls don't get called or that other calls are made?
It could be gambling. I mean, okay. I hope not. I mean, gambling's huge now in football. It's bigger than gambling and fantasy are massive in football now. There's a lot of things it could be. Sometimes I think that they do things like last week we had Green Bay had a blocked field goal. There were 3 blocked game-winning field goals last week. All right. And before the third one happened, I asked Perplexity what percentage of field goals were blocked last year. 1.6%. 1.6% of field goals all for last season were blocked in the NFL. So I asked Perplexity, what are the odds of a field goal getting blocked, a game-winning field goal getting blocked in 2 games on the same day in the NFL? And Perplexity's assessment on it was it's nearly impossible. It's less than 0.01% chance. And then, of course, there was a third one, which makes it even more impossible. So it is what it is. I don't want to turn this into a football show. So let's go ahead and jump into our next story here from Axios. A study shows left-wing terrorism is outpacing far-right attacks for the first time in 30 years. That is an indicator to me, and I'll explain why. It says halfway through 2025, attacks by far less extremists outpaced far-right violence for the first time in more than 3 decades. America's domestic terrorism landscape has undergone a remarkable inversion since President Trump took office, as his policies have eased grievances on the far right while intensifying anger on the far left. Far-right violence has historically been more frequent and more lethal, but plunged dramatically over the first 6 months of 2025. Now, why do you think that could be, Zach? That now all of a sudden right-wing violence is disappearing and left-wing violence is surging at the rapid pace?
Well, a couple of key reasons. First of all, the right-wing violence never existed in the way that they claimed, and left-wing violence was simply not being tracked. Now, the true nature of right-wing violence is being discussed because it does not exist at the level that they claimed it did. And accurate accounting of left-wing violence is taking place on top of them feeling threatened. So they are basically going into action mode. And I think that they're pushing for the revolution right now as hard as they ever have.
I agree with every single thing you just said. I also have issues with how right-wing and left-wing domestic terrorism, et cetera, how all of this was defined previously.
Mm-hmm.
So we're cleaning house on these agencies, the FBI, the CIA. They're cleaning house, right? Getting rid of politicized people that have been acting in there. If you go back and look at the report on the FBI folks in the crowd at J6, a lot of them were saying this agency has become so political. If you're starting to feel it as a low-level special agent, a GS, 12, 11, 13, whatever, what do you think the higher rankings, were doing this whole entire time? Right. It's like it's been politicized for a long time. And the catch over the last 8 years under Obama, under Biden, or, going all the way back, I guess you could say, to 2008. And even before then, right. With the radical Islamic terrorism and all that, the trends were always to blame the right because the left was always the one with power, the deep state. Yeah. And when I say left, George Bush was just as much on the left as he was a quote unquote Republican. And when I say the left, again, establishment. Right. The left and right are the same thing in DC. And so they always, the populist right and the populist left always got lumped into that category. David DePape, right? The guy that hammer time Pelosi, he was labeled as a far right conspiracy theorist, as a far right wing, domestic terrorist. The dude was as left as could be.
Yeah. And he was an illegal alien from Canada who was voting, and he had a trans wife or something like that. I mean, he lived in a sex cult, a polygamous sex cult. So yeah, definitely not right wing.
Yeah. So President Trump put this out over the weekend. Democrats' unhinged crusade against ICE fuels bloodshed. Democrats have spent years vilifying ICE as fascists, the Gestapo, and slave patrols, inciting a 1,000% surge and assaults on agents and a wave of radical left terror. Their words aren't just reckless, they're a battle cry for violence. And then he literally goes through and names by name and attributes quotes to each individual. Governor Tim Walz calling them the modern day Gestapo, talking about ICE. Governor Newsom likening them to a quote unquote secret police and calling them authoritarian and proclaiming a quote right to push back. He went further. He said, punch him in the face. Right. He said, we're going to punch you in the mouth or something like that. And it goes on and on and on. I just love to see the troll from President Trump and pointing this out.
Yeah. It's about time.
Let's jump into this story here because this is very interesting, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow with Gordon. But NBC News: U.S. preparing options for military strikes on drug targets inside Venezuela. Military officials are drawing up options to target the drug traffickers inside Venezuela, with strikes within the country's border potentially beginning in a matter of weeks, according to 2 U.S. officials familiar with the planning and 2 other sources familiar with the discussions. It says the president has not approved anything yet. The plans being discussed primarily focus on drone strikes against drug trafficking groups, members, and leadership, as well as targeting drug labs. Asked for comment, the White House referred to NBC to the previous statement from the president saying, quote, "We'll see what happens. Venezuela is sending us their gang members, their drug dealers, and drugs. It's not acceptable." The administration has discussions between the U.S. and Venezuela through Middle Eastern leaders serving as intermediaries. Maduro has spoken to those intermediaries about concessions that he would be willing to make to remain in power. The senior administration official would not specify which countries are acting as the intermediaries. So, long way of saying President Trump is considering bombing inside of Venezuela. Not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. But I also don't believe it. I don't know.
Well,
what's your take?
I mean, theoretically, if Maduro is as captured by the deep state, like if the nation of Venezuela is captured, Maduro is working to undermine that globalist deep state agenda, then the destruction of these violent gangs and the drug routes would be a benefit to him as much as it would be a benefit to the United States of America. So I am not in favor of targets inside other nations unless they're drug barons, unless they're narco traffickers. And I would be in favor of the United States striking the cartel inside Mexico because there's a distinction to be made between the government, the population, and then the narco terrorists. If you get rid of those narco terrorists, if you get rid of the gangland influence that is perhaps stopping a country from being able to progress and to keep their citizens safe, then I think that's a positive thing. So I don't know. I don't exactly know how it's going to happen. I don't even know if it is going to happen. Just the threat of it simply might be enough for Venezuelan authorities to say, hey, you know what, we'll go ahead and take care of it. We'll make sure that this isn't going to keep happening. But, I think that ultimately it would be good for the people of Venezuela.
Yeah. I think so as well. But again, I'm not a fan of using new military force without Congress in a sovereign nation. I'm all for the boats, with solid.
It's international waters,
right? It's international waters. It's solid. It's got to be highly vetted intel showing that it is trafficking drugs into the United States and destroying it, because historically we've had no success in being able to stop that way. As Spoetzel points out in the chat, the DoD game plans, or the DOW game plans, is all this stuff. All right. you've got 8 ships, I think, sitting off the coast of Venezuela with, over 4,000 troops. They're game planning a whole bunch of different things. That doesn't mean the president is approving any of this. I mean, of course, he's going to get briefed on it and make a decision. It's also not lost on me that the Tina Peters testimony that came out, the sworn testimony there. If what this guy is claiming, and I did a podcast about it on Saturday on my show, I read through it, and we're going to read the rest of it on Why We Vote this Friday, Ash and I. But if that guy's testimony, sworn testimony, is accurate, and most of it is verifiable stuff that's already published, that is in fact an attack on our infrastructure, our critical infrastructure. And that could be something that, is mounted on to the drug allegations of, the cartels and the Cartel del Sol and everything else in Venezuela. So yeah, it's not lost on me that this could potentially happen.
Yeah. And let's say that Maduro wants this to happen, but he can't publicly say that, because he's riding a fine line between remaining in power and being completely overthrown by narco terrorists, right? He would publicly have to say one thing while behind the scenes, perhaps talking through these intermediaries, saying, yes, actually, I really don't have a problem if you take care of these guys, because we can't, they basically own too many things inside this country. They control too many people. I don't know. That's totally spitballing, but I could see that as a possibility as well.
So Gordon has done a fascinating dig on Maduro, looking at a lot of the cases here in the U.S. around Maduro, and he's come to the conclusion that Maduro is he's working behind the scenes in some form or fashion to do what's best for his country, and President Trump is a vessel to get that accomplished. So we'll get into that more tomorrow. It's also quite interesting. Matt Gaetz posted, "I was one of the most vocal doves in Congress, and I'm totally for this. It's a clear mission with a direct benefit to America, and that is the U.S. Department of War planning military strikes on Venezuelan drug cartels." Matt Gaetz is also he's one of the few congressmen at the time, obviously he's out now, but one of the few congressmen who is, pretty up to speed on the election fraud that took place.
He is.
And for someone like him to make that comment, he's well aware of what took place in Venezuela. Yeah. I wonder if there's any relationship there as well.
Well, and the other question is, who actually runs those drug labs? Who set them up? Who funded them? All right. Are these CIA operations? Are these in conjunction with some other multinational criminal cartel that it's not just Venezuelan Tren de Aragua people? I think that the cocaine trade has gone through a lot of different iterations, but I think one of the constants has been the presence of the American intelligence community.
Yep. And then let's jump into this story. Speaking of Venezuela, NBC News, Trump says he'll attend Pete Hegseth's gathering of generals to tell them how well they're doing in the military, or we're doing in the military. This is absolutely absurd. It says President Donald Trump in an interview confirmed that he plans to attend an unusual meeting organized by War Secretary, not Defense Secretary, War Secretary Pete Hegseth, that will gather hundreds of senior military officers. Quote, "It's really just a very nice meeting talking about how well we're doing militarily, talking about being in great shape, about a lot of good, positive things. It's just a good message," Trump told NBC News in a phone call. "We have some great people coming in, and it's just an esprit de corps." You know what the expression esprit de corps? That's all it's about. We're talking about what we're doing, what they're doing, and how we're doing. I call bullshit.
Yeah, they couldn't have a pep rally in a less clandestine fashion.
Maybe that's what Trump's going to do when he's there. But when Trump leaves, there's something going on in that meeting. You don't call, and we talked about this on Sit Rep and then again on Friday, you don't call 800 generals from around the globe, right? This is around the world. You don't call 800 generals and their staff. I have no idea how many staff have. Maybe that's something General Quast could answer. How many staff does a typical 1, 2, 3, and 4-star have that would be in that circle that would travel to this meeting? But I would venture to say at least 3 or 4 people. And these, also, these are not low-ranking individuals. I mean, the generals, typically their staff are full bird colonels, lieutenant colonels. I mean, they're high-ranking officers as well. Sergeant majors, first sergeants, master sergeants. These are high-ranking officials. And to put them all in one building, and now to even have the president of the United States in that building with the Secretary of Defense, that is a wet dream if there was an actual hostile nation out there that wanted to absolutely cripple the United States. So to risk bringing them around the country for that it's not just to sit there and say, rah, rah, shish kumbah, you guys are doing great.
No, I don't believe that for a second. But I mean, everybody wants an official reason. I think that the media clearly recognizes that this is pretty unprecedented in its form and function, and they're obviously clamoring for any kind of information they can. President Trump now gives them a really benign sounding rationale to do this, and there's just no way. I don't believe it for a second.
Yep. All right, jumping into this story here. Oregon governor talking about President Trump sending in the National Guard and melting down.
In my conversations directly with President Trump and Secretary Noem, I have been abundantly clear with them that Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection, there is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city. Military service members should be dedicated to real emergencies.
It's interesting that when they do these press conferences like that, Zach, they always pick like the nicest place. You got the boat in the background, the river, and it looks so beautiful and peaceful. And then you've got this.
You better check yourself or you wreck yourself, because I'm bad for your health. I come real stealth, dropping bombs on your moms, kill car alarms.
They literally firebombed Ice Cube's tour bus. And this didn't dawn on me. Like, I heard this story last night and I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And then it didn't dawn on me until I saw this picture of it, because on the other side, it looks like just a black bus.
Yeah.
Then you get over here. Did these stupid sons of bitches think that ICE meant like immigration? Did they think this was an immigration bus?
I mean, there's really no better real world example of retardation that I think you can point to. I mean, obviously, these people are just as stupid as we think they are, or maybe they don't know how to read and they only read as far as the ICE before deciding to throw that Molotov cocktail. Maybe once it was on fire, somebody said, wait, hold on a second. Wait a second, guys. I think we screwed up.
Maybe like when they walk, because they firebomb the other side where the door is, and that side's all black. So maybe when they first walked up to the truck, there was like a semi truck that was pulled up and blocking the cube and everything else. So all they saw was ice, and they're like, "Oh, it's an ice bus. Let's go bomb it." So, but Ice Cube has come out and said that it was not actually his bus, but his crew's bus. His bus was being serviced, and if these derps really did bomb it because, or firebomb it because of the ice connection, be on the lookout. Iced tea, Vanilla Ice, what other ice you got out there? Like, just what an absolute dumb story.
So stupid.
Speaking of another dumb story, it's probably not a good idea to do an interview and confess to murdering your parents on live television.
When it actually happened, when your parents died, did they know it was happening to them?
Oh, yeah.
And they knew it was at your hand?
Well, yes, no one else's.
Right. So they realized what you were doing to them as it happened.
Yes.
They knew that this was it for them, that they were perishing at your hand.
Yes. And it was so quick.
How did you do it?
Yeah, I can't talk about that.
Well, you've just told us that
right.
It was at your hand.
Right.
Were there drugs involved? Was there
no.
a suffocation? You suffocated them? You suffocated your parents?
Yeah.
that was the best way to take their lives, through suffocation.
Basically.
Which parent did you suffocate first?
Okay, we can end there. We don't need to get into all the gory details. What's up?
Just what the fuck? Like, I mean, why did this guy go on live television and admit to a double homicide? I mean, to this point, they may have like suspected that he was responsible for it, but I mean, he wasn't indicted or anything. I mean, he basically just put his own neck on the chopping block.
So
Can't talk about the specifics, but I will tell you, yes, I murdered them.
I think he actually believes that he's justified in what he did, and I think that they'll try and turn this into an assisted suicide case, because both of his parents were in their, I think in their late 80s and early 90s. I think one was 92 and one was like 87 or 88. And I think that that's what they're going to try and do, is say that they wanted to die and they decided they wanted to die together. And I think that's going to be his argument.
I think he hid the bodies, though.
Yes,
and
he
was
buried them in his backyard,
and he was collecting their Social Security. So there's a number of different criminal actions that are at play here. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're a competent attorney, that's the only thing you could do at this point. But I mean, you couldn't have handed them some medication and asked them to take it themselves if they wanted to die. I mean, like strangulation, suffocation. It's not quick. All right. You got to like watch the light go out in someone's eyes. All right. And I think he also said in the interview that like first he killed his father, and then his mother basically like grieved over her dead husband's corpse, and then he killed her.
Yep.
So like there was, I mean, oh God, I don't even know, bro. Like that's just so messed up.
It is. So this all took place in 2017. And then, like you said, he concealed the bodies by burying them. And again, that's an attorney can easily say, well, he lived on property. I don't know what the house looked like. But if you live on if you've got a nice property with, several acres or hundreds of acres or whatever the case might be, I mean, if you want to go in your backyard and bury him under the oak tree, right? Forrest Gump buried Jenny under the tree. It could happen, but to your point, collecting the Social Security is going to be where he really screwed himself to show criminal conduct. And also, if he wanted to, he could have just given him a chemical concoction and have him peacefully pass out from doing some drug. But yeah, what a disturbing story, man.
I don't understand how the interview even came about. Like, my God. I mean, obviously, he clearly was not in a frame of mind to successfully conceal a double homicide any longer. All right. I mean, like having murdered both your parents and then sitting on it for the last 8 years, I suppose that would begin to eat away at you. I'm reminded of Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, just like thinking about like knowing every time he goes out in the backyard, my dead parents are buried underneath me. God.
Telltale Heart. What a great poem or essay. New York Post short story. Excuse me. That's the word I'm looking for. Howard Rubin, ex-New York City financier with ties to George Soros, arrested for allegedly sex trafficking women to a sex dungeon penthouse. What a freaking weird story. Let me just give a warning here. This could be a little graphic. So if you have sensitive ears around, maybe shut her down for a minute or two here. A retired Big Apple financier who worked for years at George Soros investment firm allegedly tortured former Playboy models and other women in Midtown penthouse turned BDSM sex dungeons for about a decade. Howard Rubin, 70, was busted by the feds on sex trafficking charges for allegedly luring dozens of women to New York City between 2009 and 2019, where he restrained, beat, and electrocuted them, according to the Brooklyn U.S. attorney. Quote, as alleged, the defendants used Rubin's wealth to mislead and recruit women to engage defendants. And I'll let you add to that on the second here, Zach.
Yep.
To mislead and recruit women to engage in commercial sex acts where Rubin, when tortured, women beyond their consent, causing lasting physical and or psychological pain, and in some cases physical injuries. So he brought his assistant in on this as well, and he's been charged, or she,
yeah.
All right. He allegedly abused women in swanky city hotels and luxury penthouses near Central Park. They leased for about $18,000 a month between 2011 and 2017. The penthouse bedrooms was soundproofed and painted red, nicknamed the Dungeon, and had a device that was used to shock or electrocute the women. The room was also had a cross and bed with restraints where the women would be bound and gagged. Many of the women targeted were former Playboy models. And there's a lot more gruesomeness in there if you guys want to read it. I'm not going to read all of it. The alleged victims were typically vulnerable or in desperate need of money and were given drugs or alcohol, including Valium, that got them inebriated for the encounters. While some of the women agreed to a safe word with Rubin they could use when the sex was getting too rough, he allegedly ignored their pleas, and it goes on and on and on. And I mean, at this point, like when we talk about, Frazzle Drip and all these other freaking sicko things, it's becoming more and more reality, and the evidence is coming out that there are a lot of sick fucks that do this shit.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is the reality is it's always happened. It's always been going on. People who are sexual sadists and psychopaths oftentimes rise to positions of power and wealth. And when they reach that level, they can use their money to behave in the most depraved ways that they've ever wanted. And they get away with it because they pay people off. It is incredible to me that he was able to get away with this for as long as he was, and that he had this assistant who, not only assisted in procuring these women and grooming these women, but she seemed to be she seemed to get off on it as much as he got off on it. Hearing about it, the text messages between them, her kind of, gleefully recounting the abuse that these women encountered when they were strapped to this cross in his bed. I mean, just so sick, as awful as you can possibly get. I am so glad that Howard Rubin is being charged criminally, because I first reported on this a couple of years ago when the civil suits began to come out. His wife left him as soon as he got sued, so I think a lot of people would say, how is it that his wife wouldn't have known? Well, I mean, somebody like this, I mean, you're in a powerful position where you're probably seemingly working all the time in the city. Your wife is living in the Hamptons, and you just do whatever you want. I mean, people will put up with a lot when it comes to the fact that they get taken care of monetarily, or, given everything that they could ever possibly want in terms of possessions. And Howard Rubin is a sadist, and he deserves everything that's coming to him. And I hope that there's other friends that he has that are going to go down as well.
Amen. Dude, I'm hoping that people will start to realize that, yes, we're all focused on Jeffrey Epstein, and we want to see justice for that. We want to see exposure on that, but it goes way beyond. It goes way beyond Epstein. Epstein is a very small fish in this big sea, and maybe that's what President Trump is meaning when he says it's a hoax. Obviously, we know that the Democrats have put a lot of stuff in there, including the letter that we believe, the birthday card. But maybe he's saying, like, he's not. Yes, there's a lot of people that are doing this. Howard Rubin, for example, there's another investigation ongoing with a billionaire from a very interesting country in Eastern Europe right now. So anyways, let's that's going to wrap up the news for today. I got a couple more things to say for tomorrow, but I got a little bit of extra work to do before Y Crumbs today. So let's go ahead and jump into the rants. We did have a Badlands boost from last week from Diana D11. Says, regarding Ray, Kyle said, circa original testimony, that Ray may have been right about no agents, but instead plenty of assets. Different take on the semantics than your thought about plainclothes versus undercover. So we do know that there were a lot of assets in the crowd as well. That came out in the Horowitz IG report. I think that that's probably still underreported as well. and that a lot of these assets may have been, provoking or trying to spark the insurrection. And maybe the 274 plainclothes agents were going back out there to reel in their assets, saying, hey, you guys were done. Let me get you out of here. That very well could be. That could be. The distinction I was making last week, Zach, is, they're saying plain clothes. Well, Christopher Wray, during his testimony that everybody's saying he lied during, he made it a point to emphasize undercover. And, the difference being that undercover is defined as, going into a covert operation where they don't know your identity and you're keeping that private, whereas plain clothes identify themselves. Okay, well, where's the badge? Where's the FBI jacket? Where's the bulletproof vest? Anything that would identify them. And why didn't you disclose this during the testimony when you were asked by Congress and during oversight? So that's my take on that.
Yeah. I mean, if he wants to get specific in that way, I mean, we have proof positive that there were undercover FBI assets, if not agents, who had been placed within the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Okay. I mean, that's been proven already. Okay. And so I guess, it's semantics, right? I mean, they had actions prior to January 6th. Did they actually show up on January 6th? Maybe it wouldn't be necessary because, of course, they had already done their job.
Yep. All right. So, guys, if you have not done so yet, we'll get into the rants here in a second, but a little over 4,000 people watching, 1.1 thousand thumbs up. Everybody, I need you guys all to smash that thumbs up. If you're new in the chat and you're just or if you're not new, but you don't chat and you're just lurking in the chat, pop in and say hello. Helps out tremendously with the algorithm and everything else. And, we actually read the chat. Zach and I and my host, we read the chat. So pop in, say hello. If you love the show, tell us you love the show. If you hate the show, tell us you hate the show and why. And maybe we'll see what we can do. All right. CK Ruthoff says, if you cover the illegal being hired as superintendent of schools in Des Moines, Iowa, he was also registered Democrat voter in Maryland. How can an illegal vote? Sarcastic comment.
Yes, I saw that come out this morning and clearly destroys the narrative that illegals don't vote. Doesn't matter how little they vote or how often they vote. If they vote at all, that is a disenfranchisement of a legal American vote.
Yes, we're going to be covering that story tomorrow on Daily. We'll get into that story, but just didn't have the time for it today. It is a very important story. Some folks on Saturday on my show that I did on the Venezuelan testimony on my podcast, they were talking about that and sent me some stuff on it. So Monty 710, I remember at Nellis Air Force Base, a guy tried to get help at the VA. They refused him and he blew his head off in the parking lot. If they treat our vets as good as illegals, we wouldn't have as many issues. Amen. And
Amen.
if they stop just trying to force, veterans to take their pills, man, plants over pills all day, every day.
Yep.
That is why I say cannabis saved my life, because I never got into the pills because
Thank God.
knew. I thank God for that every day, because I looked at what was going on with my brothers and sisters that were going and were zombified from the dope, and I was like, I'm not doing this. So I tried to deal with it my own, and when it got too much, I found weed, and it saved my life, man.
Yeah, the stuff that they put vets on was shocking to me when I learned about it. I mean, it's some heavy stuff like antipsychotics and things that are really going to stupefy and zombify people.
Yeah, it's like totally mind control, man.
Yeah.
And we're seeing I think it was Robert Card, the veteran in Maine, the National Guardsman in Maine that went and killed those people at the bowling alley.
Mm-hmm.
He had just gotten his hearing aid. He was on medications and he said he was hearing things through his hearing aid. That's the other thing is, we had the lawsuit on 3M earplugs, right? I think I got like $5,000 from that lawsuit. But they gave us these earplugs, Ear Pro, that was supposed to be, they allow low decibel in, but block out higher decibel, and they didn't work. And so now you have all these veterans that are deaf. And so they're giving out hearing aids, like at the cyclic rate, like everybody gets a hearing aid. I'm almost deaf. I mean, I'm getting really bad now, and I'm probably going to eventually have to get a hearing aid, but I'm horrified of having a hearing aid that and they advertise it as, oh, it can connect to Bluetooth and you can watch it can connect to your television and all this other shit. And I'm like, man, who knows what the fuck they're doing with that thing? Subliminal messaging that they're putting in, radio frequencies. And I'm like, I'll go deaf, man, before I wear one of those things. All right. Potter D1 says, I've been an advocate for weed since the 80s, never took any meds, only weed. My dad was a Chicago cop too. Couldn't agree more, Brian. Amen. And I'm pleased. If you go through the comments on that video that I put out, it's got like 50,000 views now. And all the comments, almost all the comments are so positive. And every once in a while, you get the one boomer who's like, my streets smell like weed and it's killing people. And I'm like, weed's never killed anybody. Shut up.
Not a one.
You sound dumb. D-Dale for the book fund. We're trying to buy Ingersoll Lockwood's the Tales of Baron Trump, an original copy.
Oh God.
We're never going to get there because I don't believe it exists.
I've never seen an original copy. Somebody actually the other day asked me in my chat if I had an original copy. I've got PDFs. I've never seen a paperback or hardcover edition.
I have a new hardcover, but it was printed after it became about. We want one from 1893.
Yes, I hear you. Yeah,
and they're like $4,000 to $8,000.
Woo!
Yeah, so SJack64 contribution for the book and also the basil plants. Does she have flowers growing in the basil? What are the orange flowers?
Those, yeah, they looked like
pull it back up.
Yeah, I forgot what I recognize them as well. Yeah, those, I mean, those are definitely, common garden flowers, but I don't know what they are.
Interesting.
And then over here, she's got them as well.
Interesting.
But I mean, my mom had those when I was growing up. I remember seeing them.
Well, we're going to try that. I'm going to talk to my wife and maybe we'll get this set up so we can.
Marigolds. There you go. Marigolds.
Marigold. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go buy a couple basil plants and give this a shot and see how it works. And maybe we'll see if there's any THC that comes out in the basil. Imagine that. Like, imagine if you can infuse THC into basil and then imagine all the Italian food that you could eat infused with THC. Man,
you could do it after the fact, certainly. But I mean, it might be possible to graft to graft weed plants into basil plants. I mean, you can do that with, I've seen apples growing on lemon trees and stuff like that. Or, they'll take different citrus plants, graft them together, and then you can have them all together.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tomorrow's the big day, guys. Let's see what happens in the government shutdown. Let's see what happens with the 4-star and generals with all 4 ranks of generals all meeting and everything else. It's going to be a banger. Zach, what you got coming up, brother?
I'll be live at 5 on my channel for Red Pill News, and then I'll be live tonight with John at 10:30 for Baseless Conspiracies.
Awesome. Also, yeah, that's a good point. I've been doing more on my channel. So if you guys want, rumble.com/Canncon, Cancon. I'm going to be doing a stream either this afternoon after Christy's done with alphas or tomorrow afternoon on the Fulton County developments in Georgia. I'm gonna be doing a lot of shows on that kind of stuff here coming up now that we can speak freely and there's so much happening. So if you want to give me a follow over there as well. And then of course on Why We Vote here, we'll be talking about a lot of that same stuff. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Y Crumbs will be coming up in about an hour. We'll see you then. And God bless, guys.
Peace.
Deodorant should do more than cover you up. It should protect you all day long.
Dude, the deodorant stick is legit. I like the mint one. And, you go work out and you kind of get you get funky if you work out. Dude, at the end of my workout, I'm sweating, shirt got all those sweat. I'm like, dude, I still smell good. I absolutely love it. If you guys haven't tried it, try it.
That's the difference with Soft Disclosure. No aluminum, no chemicals, just clean, natural ingredients that fight odor and keep you fresh through every workout, every meeting, every moment.
I've always struggled with the you can't use aluminum deodorant because you're going to die if you use it kind of thing, because all of the non-aluminum deodorant products suck pretty much. Yeah. This is different. This is all day. You're all day good, and you're not putting any of that disgusting chemicals right near your lymph nodes.
Soft Disclosure Deodorant. Real protection, real freshness. Built on truth. Available in mint and lemon grapefruit. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Badlands for 15% off.